That was big. That was big. I like that. Welcome to the Late Hit Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Cave, and as always, I'm joined by my two now very good pals, John Barclay and James Hook, and we are here to chat about all things rugby. But this week, we're live, so producer Adam has given us full permission to completely wing this one, as opposed to the well-choreographed show our lucky listeners have been privy to over the last 3 weeks. First off, very important, don't forget to put your comments in, whether you're watching Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We'll try to answer some questions. There's some come through on Twitter earlier. And remember, there's a couple of rules. Be nice to me and only rip the piss out of these other two. Hookie, kick us off, me old mate, and tell us what you've been up to.
Same old Cavey boy. Bit of coaching. Bit of golf, getting into the golf now. What else? Last week I went to Scott Williams' little boy's birthday party, actually, which was entertaining. We'd actually been there now. Twist pad.
Yeah, in 5 Rows at Clathley, big old house.
Hell of a place, and he's got this swimming pool at the back, like not a paddling pool now, proper swimming pool.
Infinity pool.
Yeah, a proper one. Yeah.
Good on him.
And he's
south of Wales.
He's built the bar, and anyway, we turned up. It was a nice day, and the kids, my 3 boys, turned up with their swimming shorts. So I literally snuck in through the side gate. Hadn't said hello to anyone. My eldest boy was in the pool. My middle boy was in the pool. So then, as they came out, my youngest boy, he's 3 years old. He's put his swimming shorts on. He's bang straight into the deep end, but he can't swim. So I hadn't said hello to anyone. And he's gone straight into the deep end, like a Jack Russell chasing a stick. So I'm in after him, in my clothes, phone in my pocket, my wallet in my pocket. And I made my entrance.
You would have drowned if your wallet was in your pocket. Jesus.
You want So yeah,
Hookie, you're saving lives. What a legend.
Ah, mate. And he was the youngest was complaining, and he was wondering what was going on, why I dragged him out.
Great stuff. Has he still got that? Hey, Williams used to have one of those G-Wagons as well. Where's he getting all this cash from? What are you boys getting paid in Wales?
I know, mate. I know. He's rinsed the Scarlets. Now he's down in the Ospreys, now, isn't he?
Rinsing the Ospreys. That's smart.
He's got a great pad. Fair dues to him.
Big eye in Wales, Cavey, when you go down there. There's some big old pads kicking around. That was a big change when I went down there. Everyone in Scotland, Scots are tight, and they're investing in ISAs and stocks and shares. And you go down there, the boys have got G-Wagons, they got swimming pool. I'm trying to put windows in my house up here, never mind pools.
Well, here, mind John, didn't you?
Oh, it's nice down there. I loved it though.
Fair play for that. I wasn't expecting that story, John. So I was about to ask you what you've been up to. Are you happy to follow that? Do you think you can top that? Have you saved a life?
I just saved a life, but I've had a reasonably busy week. My first week in the adult world, in the real world of work, which I found tiring. I don't know how you, Hookie, you're not really in it, but Cavey, you work a proper job like me now. So I don't know. I'm exhausted. Genuinely, come 3, 4, I'm absolutely wrecked. And on top of that, I've been trying to train, and we're trying to potty train in my house, mate. So it's a bit of a hectic week in the Barclay house.
Well, speaking of 9 to 5, John, or is it quite flexible?
At the moment, because of COVID, everyone's from home, so yeah, pretty much.
He's not allowed to talk about it, Hookie. They're so embarrassed about employing him that he told me we're not allowed to talk about. He's not allowed to say who he works for in the pod, ladies and gentlemen. They're ashamed.
In Scotland, that's big news. That's why I can't talk about it. It's got to be a big release, obviously.
Yeah, and while we're talking about potty training, we had an interesting event in the Cave household tonight. Daughter's 14 months old, stands up in the bath. She's getting ready to walk, just does a big poo in the middle of the bath. I'm like, "What? Let's not play on." So 1 minute you're at the Viva Stadium on TV, taking the media world by storm. Stop going on about it, lads. Next minute you're scooping crap out of a bath on a Tuesday night. Like, what happened, lads? We better crack into some of these questions. We got Barclay is a big deal in Scotland. He's just after typing that. Who are we starting with these questions, lads? Can you see them coming through? Who was in first? We have one, LJ Keegan. What's the worst bit of sledging you've received on the field, and by who? That's a good question. Anyone want to start off with that while I have a wee think? I got slagged so much I can't even remember.
I don't know, actually. I didn't get...
I Gareth was sledging, wasn't he? Rog was good at sledging. I remember outside half Matthew Jones for the Ospreys.
Yes.
Back in sort of 2007, 2008. And I suppose he was a short outside half, quite young looking. And I remember O'Gara coming on and telling him, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, the under-12s are playing tomorrow, he said.
Oh, I can't think. John, you any good stories about there was always a good bit of mouthing going off on the pitch, but I'm trying to think of like the likes of Tommy Bowe and Trimble giving like really, really bad banter, do you know? It's like something like calling Donkey Weir fat, do you know? Oh, you're fat. It's like, you've got him there, he's scuppered.
Yeah, he's got nothing. Not really, actually. Yeah, just the usual crap stuff you get. But there's not, I don't know. Maybe should have come prepared for that one.
Yeah,
Roger was big mix the boys. I remember when I was younger playing against him. And Munster, like, had the most of the boys of Paul O'Connell and Donnacha Callahan and all these. They didn't say much. They just he was just non-stop, in your face, just talking shit the whole time.
Yeah, well, listen, we should have had a better answer for that if that one had come in earlier. I can't even think. I must have got the shit slagged out of me solid for 13 years. Let's see to it. Let's do another question. Darren Powell says Hookie is a true Ospreys legend, and ain't that true? Only an Ospreys legend would take the cash and get down to Perpignan. Let's see. There it is, Darren Powell. Good work. Paul Williams. No, here we go. How do you say that? How do you pronounce his name? Hewell?
I was going to try that.
Howell.
I
don't even know what that means. Hookie, do you want to... Who's the holster?
Get in. Sean Ollie, is it?
Have you been playing golf with him, have you?
Yeah, he's...
hold on. Okay, hold on. That's a rival podcast, pal. You can't be playing golf with him now. Cave, come on.
Soon enough, you're just going to be on the other podcast, pal.
I didn't ask a question, boys, did I?
Yeah, exactly. Let's do one more. That's a good one. Paul Williams, he's a good follow on Twitter, by the way, so you better give him a shout out. He's a funny man. But let's go with this one. When you were playing, if you had to lose 20% of your pace or 20% of power, what would you have chosen?
I had neither. Pretty tough choice.
I was kind of thinking, when I retired, lads, I couldn't have been giving away 20% of anything. I was scraping all the percents I was getting, like 85 kilos dripping wet and slow as piss. Like, I wasn't losing anything.
I actually, my final game for Scotland, I scored. You guys are probably, it was the big game of the World Cup, Scotland-Russia. You would have been watching, boys, I assume.
I think I did watch that. Is George Horne still Horny? He scored about 8 tries, didn't he not?
And I scored. I remember thinking, I went through and I ran it. I don't know, it was about 40, and I thought, fuck, I'm rapid. I'm absolutely smoking, boys, here. And I watched back, and the boys got the you got the GPS stats now, Hookie, and that was my top speed. In my head, that was I can't run any faster, and I think I was about 6 meters a second, and that's like jogging speed, and doesn't even go into like high speed meters. So probably couldn't afford to lose much more on the pace, I don't think.
Yeah, Hookie, I have nothing to add on that. I didn't have any percents to give away.
I'm the same, because I probably at the end of my career, last couple of years, I'd lost a bit of pace, and I basically wasn't the same player. So I didn't have a lot of pace, but yeah, I couldn't afford to lose any pace. So I could probably afford to lose a bit more power than pace.
And we got a good question on Twitter earlier from Luke Hopkins, who was asking for John. He wanted your Lions back row. You answered the question already on Twitter. So you actually, I meant to say to you, that's not the point. You ask the questions and then you answer them on the podcast. So do you want to have a go at that one again? Tell me your starting Lions back row if everyone was fit and you had to pick right now, and then Hookie and I are going to give our midfields.
You can contribute, boys. It doesn't have to be. Let me think.
We don't do that. Okay.
Oh, John,
give me. You boys talk about your midfield. I'm gonna.
Right, Hookie. Here's the thing. It's got to be me and you in the center. So Farrell or Saxon at 10. What do you reckon?
What are you playing? 12 or 13, KV?
I'm not big enough to play 12, and I'm not fast enough to play 13.
I'll try to get
12 and a half. Probably Okay, no, jokes aside then, Hooky, Barclay's scribbling there. He's taking this too seriously.
I can't even think of back row. I've only been out of the game 6 months. I can't think of anyone. Who's good?
Sam Allardyce, the Bath Seven. Hooky, right, jokes aside, it's got to be in South Africa, right? Big man. It's got to be, if they can get fit and to their best, right? It's John the Fox and Big Manu with Farrell or Sexton at 10. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think if Manu's fit, he's got to play at 12, and then it's a toss up between Sexton and Farrell, really, isn't it? But I don't know. I think Gatland probably prefers Farrell if you have to choose. But if you think of the Lions Test series in New Zealand, Farrell and Sexton were the 10 and 12 for the final 2 tests. So I don't know. I'd chuck Henshaw and Ringrose as well in the mix. I think, if they carry on playing the way they are, they'll go. I know John Davis, if he's fully fit, he'd probably play 13. But I think Ringrose is, he's up to 30 odd caps worth of experience. He's getting better every game, it feels. So
he's a class player. He actually is. When I watch him play, because he's not massive, and it kind of reminds me like of myself, except like shitloads better. And like he's faster and tackles and passes better and makes more line breaks and scores more tries. But he wears the same number, except I like to wear 23 sometimes at the end. Does Finn have a shot, Stephen?
Hold on. I'm making a back row, okay, but chill out. Or we just leave the back row, is it?
Do we want something, Barclay? Throw us a back 3 here. Keep Luke Hopkins happy.
I know he's been waiting after all that.
Big Billy's got to be at 8 if he's at his best. I'll help you out.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, is this your back row or mine? But yeah, Vunipola's in there. And I don't think it'll be this back row, but this is who I would pick. I would pick Hamish Watson in there. And I would pick Curry in there. But I don't know. I think if Hamish Watson was in, everyone knows his quality. I think if he was playing in a Leinster team, people would be blowing smoke up his arse every week.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I hear that.
And that's the problem you have playing in Scotland, I think. It's a bit of a mindset. But anyway, that's who I would pick.
Hey, and Stephen asked about, does Finn have a shot? I actually wondered what that was about. Does he have a shot or what, Sambuca? But obviously we were talking about the Lions midfield. What about that, Hooky? Some player. Have you seen the clips of him going around the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're taking Farrell and Sexton, then Finn could go as that sort of guy who can break a game up, I suppose. And obviously you got Dan Bigger who you chuck in the mix. But I don't know would you take Farrell, Sexton, and Bigger? They sort of quite similar as fly halves. So if you're taking 3 10s, I think Finn's got to be in the mix, 100%. Yeah. Yeah,
he's got to be close. I've got a new segment for us on the show, lads. This is called the Review of the Week. So I'm going to kick us off. This is from week 3. And this was a review put on YouTube. So I'm going to read this one for you, ladies and gentlemen, so bear with me. This is from Francis T. Cronin. It says, Darren Cave, pod is great, you're a nice guy, but you talk a mountain of white, full stop. Keep up the good work. Guys, there's people that have known me for 25, 30 years that could not describe me better than that. So I think we have to give a shout out to Francis T. Cronin for that. Thank you for the positivity. I'm going to thank him. I think that was a compliment, was it?
Did he give ratings on it? Did a certain number of stars? Or?
It was a comment. So I'm gonna, or it was on YouTube. So I'm going to assume he gave us a thumbs up, and not a. So anyway, I mentioned the final. Obviously, I was taking the Premier Sports world by storm. I assume you both watched the game. How good are those boys? Even it was so good that Barclay even was tweeting Ruggers.
I was tweeting Ruggers and I was texting you through it. I have not watched much Ruggers, and I watched it, and I think it was on the podcast we were talking about. I played a semi-final against Leinster, and I felt like we didn't play that bad, but we just could not get near the ball, couldn't do anything. And you could see it. I think the guys in comms, I think it might have been UKB talking about it. He just said they just looked like within 50 minutes they looked broken, and I think there was a spell of it was quite close, and then they had a penalty against them and the intercept try, and that was the game after 50 minutes. Yeah. But I actually thought also looked really good in the first half. I thought it was a quality game in the first half, but then Leinster just too good. And again, you touched on it in comms, KB, I think. And I noticed that they didn't even celebrate.
Weird, wasn't it?
Do you know what I mean? When we won it, we were sprinting around the Aviva, like absolute knobs, and they've like, oh yeah, won it, boys. Well done, another one.
Like jokes aside, definitely like the crowd doesn't help that, but it was weird. Like not even one of them went. "Ugh." Like it was honestly like they were like, right, frickin', do we have to hang around to get these trophies? I actually don't know where I'm going to put this medal. And I'm like, just put it beside your Young Player of the Year trophy, 0809. Like, flip's sake. They don't have that trophy though, lads, because there's only one winner of that at Ulster. Hooky, what did you think? Like it is a bit. I don't want it to be boring for people. Why are they so damn good? A lot of made about their attack, but I think their defense is like they're so well spaced. They're so comfortable without the ball, aren't they? They look like, do you know when teams get worn down when they don't have the ball? They look like they could just sit there all day and you throw anything at them.
Yeah, I thought, like we said last week, Ulster had to start well. They scored the great try, and Hume scored a hell of a try, and you thought, oh, here we go now. And then within a matter of minutes, Leinster back down the other end. They scored a try, and they just look so comfortable in the 22. The conversion rate in the 22 is so successful. But yeah, I don't know. The defense was strong and solid, but I think in attack they don't do anything special. But I think they carry dominance. They just make yards. They make an extra yard or two more than Ulster. They get a second or more quicker ball, and probably that's the difference. And I don't know what you think, Kavy, about Ulster and attack. I thought they threw everything at Leinster, but they were coming around the corner a lot. I thought they didn't really have that variety. So I thought, particularly Leinster, who bring our line speed in the open side, they didn't test them once down the short side of the ruck, where Leinster perhaps may have been a little bit weaker. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's something I've been sort of trying to get to the bottom of the last few weeks. I think against a lot of teams in the Pro 14, Ulster are good enough just to generate momentum and quick ball off anything. But I do think when they get lost against bigger teams, they do look really, really like they did it for 50 minutes against Edinburgh, and they just but I don't know what it is, because sometimes they just burst into life and it's those wee tip passes and just punch holes. But it's almost like they're trying to play the arm wrestle game, but they're not. I don't think they're big enough and physical enough to do it at the top level. I think for loads of games in the Pro 14 it works. But yeah, it's really hard to put your finger on it. And it was hard to, like, from an Ulster point of view, I was really proud of the players. I thought they played really well. I thought they give it absolutely everything. And you don't want them to be happy being losers. But at the end of the day, like I said it on Twitter, that season was about finishing second, because there's never been a more dominant team. And it was interesting reading here what Dan McFarlane said after the game. His interview was very good. He said, "The longer I sit here, the prouder I am of the people I work with. We've been building, but we're disappointed tonight because the realization we're a fair bit further away from where we need to be." And his point was, like, he got up on the morning of the game thinking we can do this. And actually, by the end of the day, the gap between the two sides was bigger than he thought. So for a coach to come out and say that after a game in a final.
Yeah.
Ian Henderson said something similar. He said, we're getting better, but Leinster are getting better faster than we're getting better at the moment. So you're not even closing the gap on them, which is pretty depressing. You kind of live in these little echo chambers, little silos, and you think, oh, we're getting better. We're going to be brilliant here. And I had that all the time with Scotland, and everyone in Scotland is such like a little insular thing. Oh, we're brilliant. We've got all these players coming through. You're like, well, hold on, boys. So does everyone else. And you've actually seen Leinster, they're getting so much better, and they're using 60 players. 60 players they use or something?
So it was in the 50s, but it wasn't far off, yeah.
So they're only going to get they're going to have even more players to pick from. It's just, I don't know. And I kind of felt the pain of the Ulster players, because like you said, Cave, it was probably good enough to beat anyone else. That first half, they were brilliant. The physicality, the intensity, the emotion they brought to it with that crowd. But still, you look at the score and they were nowhere near.
Yeah, and Leinster look like they more.
Everything they do, they just do well, don't they? Apart from, obviously, the line-out didn't function really, and they still put 20-odd points on Ulster. But another thing as well, I suppose, that Leinster, when they kick, they kick in more often than not on the front foot, and Ulster, when they kicked, it was almost because it was a last resort. That's what it looked like, anyway.
Well, you were talking about defense. We did a thing with Sean Hawley last week, didn't we, with the enemy, and he said that Leinster's defense, when teams enter their 22, 80% of the time Leinster get the ball back. And normally we spoke about it on that, didn't we, that normally as an attack you would look to, when you get into the 20, you'd look to score 80% of the time, but they've got it on its head, and they're like, well, through a whole season to be letting people score 20% of the time is, you got no chance.
Yeah, fair play to them.
I'm having. Can you hear me, boys? I'm having a bit of.
Yeah.
Sorry, my Bluetooth was messing around there. There's someone in there coming in. Lorcan Murphy, good on you, mate. Leinster aren't that much ahead of everyone else. They're the only side ready for knockout and finals rugby. What do you think of that, lads? Has he got a point? Or Lorcan, what about the fact they're absolutely hosing everyone for the past since May 2014? Is it?
Lorcan sounds like he's played in Scotland too much. I think the name of the game, isn't it? You got to get ready for knockout rugby. I think, and they didn't lose a game all season. So I would. Sorry, Lorcan, but you're wrong. I think they are a fair bit ahead of everyone right now.
And Owen's talking about like the players they don't like. Dan Levy hasn't played. Tag Furlong. It's sickening. It's and to go backside to the game at the weekend, and there was so much made about Sexton being on the bench. Actually, whispers were coming out that like he and Leo had a bit of a Barney about it, and Johnny had come in and said, "Oh, I want to be playing. I don't want to be sitting out games. I want to be playing." And I think it's a load of spoof, lads. I think it's I think Leinster have sat down and go, look, we've got 7 games in a row, 2 normal games and then 5 knockout games. And Johnny Sexton's not going to play 80 minutes of them all. And I think they went, the semi-final is going to be a tougher game for us than the final. I think they always felt that if they could beat Munster at the Viva, they would beat the finalists. So as a result, they've gone, you know what, play Johnny in the semi-final, rest him in the final, and then you got him now, and you probably need him for as much of the next 3 weeks as possible. But let's be honest, Leinster aren't in this Champions Cup to get a semi-final run at it. What do you think, lads?
Yeah, where's that come from, Cavey? Does that come out from a Leinster camp?
No, just sort of, because he has a reputation as being quite fiery, so the chat was that he wasn't happy,
I reckon he wouldn't have been happy about it. It's not his first final. It's his 14th final he's been in with Leinster, and it's the only one he hasn't started.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? 14 finals, and he was at wrestling for 2 years.
That's bonkers.
But yeah, so you reckon he would have been pissed off, Hookie, do you?
I reckon. Like, I know the semi-final was obviously crucial, and he was a big part to play in that. But at the end of the day, it's a final. I think if any of us weren't selected to start in the final, we'd be pretty disappointed, wouldn't we? I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is what I just think. A part of being a leader as well. What do you think, John? You're Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I kind of, you'd know more about the Irish contracts and how many games they can play is there a certain number of games they can play in a row, and he may have had to contract.
Yeah, 35. I don't think he's playing 5 knockout games in a row, but sure. Whatever, who cares? Ross Burns freaking better than half the other 10s going anyway.
Yeah. Mentioned to Ross Burns, he was really solid, and he didn't lose anything by having Ross Burns in the pitch, to be fair.
Yeah, he is a good player. We have to give a shout out to these boys, the South Wales Ulster Rugby Supporters Club. Would you believe that that's a thing, ladies and gentlemen? They're loving the show and trying to keep up the great work. They're a genuine group, and even in the middle of Bridge End with the floodlights, you can hardly see anyone in front of you, Hookie. You can see them with their Ulster flag in the stand. So great bunch. So happy to give them a shout out. And they also say we reckon Ulster didn't play too badly. Leinster were just so strong, and second half defence was awesome. That's a pretty fair summation of the game. But I like what Stephen McGovern has to say here. What do you think of that, boys?
Hook, Cave, Barclay, law firm. I could do that.
Yeah. Well, Hookie's looking for a job. You can't tell us what your job is, or we're going to need a law firm to defend us. Lads, we're getting absolutely hammered by Catherine Boyce here about Bundy Aki. She wants to... Catherine, tell us where you're from, Catherine, and why you're trying to send Bundy Aki to Ulster. An unpopular opinion, but Bundy Aki should go to Ulster. That's a strange comment, and you want us to analyse him. What do you think of Bundy Aki, boys?
What does she want us to say?
I think she says that he should go to Ulster.
He plays 12 or 13, Bundy Aki, does he?
Yeah.
Oh,
he just melt people.
12, yeah. Yeah, I guess him and McCloskey are reasonably similar. I don't know. You boys talk about you play centre. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Oh, she's from Donegal. She's an Ulster woman. Yeah, well, listen, we'd take him. I think we've got well covered for centres, Catherine, but we'd take him. Yeah, the South Wales Supporters Club don't want them. The Bangor Bulldozer, Shirt McCluskey, he's there. Lads, what are we? We're done talking about Leinster, aren't we? And Ulster, we done?
Yeah, I reckon.
Nothing like. What about Saris? What about that game? What do you reckon, lads? Sarries have a chance. Farrell not playing's making a big difference, but if there's one team that have something up their sleeve, surely it's them. I don't think Leinster will have loved that draw. I think they'd have taken any of those French teams rolling the Dublin in the middle of COVID or getting hosed. I don't think they would have wanted Sarries.
Yeah, I think probably looking at how it's gone, I think you'd rather be in Leinster shoes. I think the scheduling in the Premiership's crazy, and I don't know how they've rotated players and people making noises about player welfare, and there's obviously not a lot of it if there's a stupid number of games they've played, 2 a week kind of thing. So I actually think looking at Leinster be chuffed. They've played some knockout rugby. They've managed to change some of the players they've played in the final, back into that groove of playing knockout rugby, which is a little bit different. So but like I said, Sarries have had the rub on them before, so I don't know. Big one.
What do you reckon, Hookie?
I fancy Leinster, but I think Sarries will. We're talking about Leinster. We're coming around the corner, and I think Saracens will get that carry dominance a bit better than Ulster did. That's what they've done for years, and they'll get a big ball carriers around the corner. And they've got a great kick chase. Everyone knows how Saracens play, and they back the kick chase, big carriers. But I don't know. I think Leinster are on a roll, and I think they're going all the way.
What did you make of his ban, lads? I know it was a couple of weeks ago. He's been flirting with that sort of shoulder for a while. But what did you make of the length he got? He got 5 week ban, or sorry, 5 game ban, which is maybe a separate talking point. But it was reduced from 10 because he wore a tie. Am I joking? It was reduced from 10 because he did charity work and blah blah blah. That was it's a very big reduction, isn't it? Eddie Jones, I think, turned up and vouched for him as well. Yeah. I wonder why that is. No.
Yeah. All of players allowed to play in the game. He's allowed to play in the games for England now, isn't he? But I don't understand how that's allowed. I suppose why should his charity work and what Eddie Jones has to say have any reflection on what he actually did or the incident on the pitch at the time? I don't understand how that has any relevance. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just seeing. It's a ban, wasn't it? It's pretty crazy. I don't know I think the citing thing is crazy. I don't know anyone that's ever been banned for the number of weeks and then actually got that ban. You wear a tie and you go in there and you don't fart in the hearing, or you a present and you get a couple of weeks off, or it's a total mockery of the system. I don't know. I just don't understand it, and I don't know. I think it's crazy that you can get 5 games, or it might be 5 weeks, or some guys get banned in the Six Nations, then didn't miss a game because of COVID, and it's I don't know.
Yeah.
I love the way Farrell plays. He obviously plays on the edge, but let's be fair, that was a pretty bad challenge, wasn't it? He came across like Shawn Michaels from the WWF. To get 5 weeks, he's going to be happy with that, isn't he?
Yeah, he has, and we probably shouldn't really make light of players doing charity work, but I did like that question that's come in from Stephen McGovern. Any truth, Farrell's charity is for victims of his tackles. I tell you what, that kid from was it? He could do that because that was a serious shot. But what do you think then with the sort of games versus weeks? I think, Hookie, you had an opinion on this. I think it's quite an interesting one because if a player gets banned for 8 weeks at the end of the season, they would be ready for the start of the next season. So it is good that they're taking games into consideration. But I think, you had another sort of interesting take on it.
No, didn't that come in, I think, after Dylan Hartley had a really long ban? And then obviously there was no games, but, he got back quicker. But if you look at the 2 incidents, George North got sent off the other day, and obviously Owen Farrell, but George North, because there's no games for the Ospreys coming up until start of October, he'll probably miss definitely the first Welsh game, maybe the second. And Farrell, because obviously Saracens got games, he won't miss any England international. So it's changed from weeks now is not weeks, it's games,
You cannot the Ospreys get him to be available for Neath for a wee game in the next few weeks. Neath have no games, no Swansea.
Just make up a few friendlies
Swansea Uni have a friendly next week, do they not, pal? You could put one in the schedule.
I'll try and get for the Swansea University with me.
Yeah, exactly. Get them. I don't know if we get in the team, Hookie, with player coaches like yourself, But where were we going from Sarah? Oh yes, was it John? You mentioned the Premiership schedule. I think that's interesting because the one thing the Premiership said was they were like, we want the credibility of our league maintained and we want to finish the fixtures. And you're kind of going, well, what is like the credibility of your league? You're 58-34, Wasps thirds against Sarries seconds. It's a bit of a I'm not really sure. I actually think the Pro 14 deserve big credit for going, right, everyone will play 2 derbies, and then they did get the best 4 teams in the semi-finals, and they got a winner, and the winner doesn't have an asterisk beside it. What a schedule coming up for those English teams now. You're straight into knockout games. They have to finish their league. They'll go straight into the next league, and then you have the Autumn Nations Cup. It's credibility of the league. It's an absolute shambles, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, player welfare is really important because we said it.
And I get they're resting players and stuff, but like you say, you're sending the Shags out to play the Shags. It's not even the Shags going out. It's the bin juice going out, and it's like, well, there's no credibility in the league for that, is there? Like people, I don't know if it's a financial situation with the contracts with BT and where they have to get games on to get the money. I don't know that, but I do think. I think this year is going to be berserk with the schedule, and then the Autumn Cup, Six Nations, Lions too, and I know they've cut the Heineken Cup back slightly by a couple of games, but yeah, it's gonna be it'd be interesting to see what the fallout is injuries wise. And we don't want to see that, but that's what tends to happen when you overload players. That players break down.
Yeah, and what about just flicking through the other fixtures, guys, here for the games coming up? Like in the Champions Cup, so we've got Leinster, Sarries. Who are we picking? Are we picking Leinster to win that, lads?
Where is that? It doesn't matter. There's no crowd.
Dublin, isn't it?
The trophy cablet's Dublin. I hear you, Hookie. See what I did there? Come on, Leinster winning that, John. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And Claremont Racing, you may as well do the lottery. What are we getting there?
Racing.
2 heavyweights knocking absolute stuffing out of each other.
Racing fit up.
And you've got Toulouse are going to be beaten by Ulster.
Toulouse, yeah.
I actually think Toulouse are going to win. It pains me to say my beloved Ulster are going to lose, but I think a lot's gone into that Ulster game. I think they're going to be licking the wounds and off there, and Hookie, tell us a bit about the top 14. Sure, I know you're still figuring out what to do with all your Euros. You aren't when you're over there, but what are those boys going to be up to after 6 months of doing burpees in the garden? Surely there are going to be a few kegs on them.
Yeah, well, you think so, Neil, but I don't know. I've tried to look at I think they've played 2 top 14 games so far this season, and you talk about that Racing and Claremont game. I think Racing have won 2 of the games so far since lockdown, and Claremont, who were massive, obviously, in the European Champions Cup and come so close so many times. They lost to Bayonne away from home. So, like you say, it's a bit of a lottery with the French teams, but that's like you say, it's 2 heavyweights, Claremont and Racing. So, I think it's just who turns up on the day, to be fair.
Yeah. We ain't picking winners on that one. That's a lottery, lads. That's just a good game on Saturday evening. Sit down, just enjoy your ruggers in it. And Exeter are going to hose Northampton. Am I right? That's going to be a 50-pointer, I think.
50-pointer.
50-pointer. No, not quite. But Exeter are winning that, aren't they, at home?
I go Exeter, definitely.
Northampton.
And what about, we mentioned the new Autumn Nations Cup, lads. Hookie, I have to come for you on this because there's been absolute uproar in Wales. What the hell is going on? So it's announced the games are on Amazon, and the whole of Wales absolutely kicks off because they're fucking tight as anything. They don't want to pay for it. Then S4C say, don't worry, lads, we're going to put it on. And then the whole Wales goes, fudge that. Nobody wants to watch it in Welsh. What's going on? Settle down. Why are you so angry?
Are you going to put on the red button? Because sometimes on S4C you can put on the red button to get some English commentary. They're not allowed to do that, are they?
Oh, did you just ask me what happens in the Welsh commentary on S4C?
That's what we usually do on S4C, so there might be a bit of hope there. Otherwise, we'll have to do what we used to do in the olden days and just put the radio on and turn the volume down on the TV and get some English commentary on.
Wales are going to finish their Six Nations, right?
Scotland. They play Scotland, John, and they play France.
Yeah, they've got 2 games. So they've got 2 Six Nations games and then potentially 4 Autumn Cup games.
Yeah. Yeah, so
lads, nobody knows what's going on.
France in a friendly as well before the Scotland game. So France, then Scotland, And then I think it's Ireland, England, and Georgia, is it?
Hooky, all you need to know is what channels they're on, so we can get you broadcasting. Do you know what I mean? Let's get you onto these people.
John will come round and translate. He speaks Welsh, doesn't he?
I'll get my boy around. The boys will be happy about international rugby. They get their bonuses, which the English we were talking about earlier. The English boys won't be too happy now. Down to a meager 17.5 grand for the games. How do you feel, boys? You gutted for them, or
do you think they'll survive, or?
I don't know. I'm not sure they'll cope. Really, I don't know.
That's what I think. So I think the Irish boys get about. I think they get say 2 or 3 grand for the match fee, and then I think there's another 4 or 5 at stake for winning. Unfortunately, you two and the thousands of people logging on will be surprised to hear that I actually didn't win that many Six Nations games playing for Ireland. But you laugh at this, but it's genuinely true. I think the match fee is the same, but the win bonus is done per tier. So Sanzar teams and Six Nations at the top, then Darren Cave fixtures underneath. I actually was thinking, like, when I saw the groups come out and I saw Georgia and Ireland's group, I thought, you know what, I might get fit, because they might just go like, this is his game, and the Barbarians are playing, and us 3 are looking a game on that. So maybe we need to get rid of this belly, lads. Ned Kelly, what do you reckon? And here, Mark Harvey, he wants to talk Challenge Cup, and John Barclay always wants to chat about Edinburgh. So, John, can Edinburgh beat Bordeaux? Edinburgh, aka the capitulators.
And I don't know. You don't know if they're going to be what shape the French boys will turn up in. You hear all sorts of stories about. Johnny Beatty's told me a story once. He was at Cast or maybe in Bayonne or wherever he was over there, Montpellier, and he said they showed up one day and they did. Johnny was one of the unfittest guys that I played with, and he showed up and he was ahead by miles according to Johnny. And they did some reasonably hard training on day one, and then they got a message out saying they were going to do a yo-yo the next day. So they had a group call. All the senior players had a group call, and they complained to the coaches, so they just had a barbecue instead of the yo-yo. So I don't know what kind of shape they'll be showing up in. That's the only thing I think. Maybe Edinburgh will be fit. They'll be battle hardened. I heard they did their review was 2 hours 40 minutes.
I was watching all Grant Grillcurst's penalties.
Hey, also learned now the weekend. Bloody hell, they're still giving away so now. Edinburgh, in fact, I think Edinburgh will win that game.
Interesting.
I think the way they played against Ulster, they didn't win the game, did they? But I think they've got a lot of talent there to turn over Bordeaux. And like you say, Bordeaux are a good team, but I think Edinburgh can, off the back of losing to Ulster and the pain they're probably feeling, I reckon they'll just go out and just.
I think we played them in the group stages when I was there, and they had no game plan. They just gave it to Ranradra, and he's gone now. So I don't know who they've got, but yeah, I don't know. I just fancy Edinburgh. Edinburgh will have a bit more structure. The difference would be the power game again, which is always the issue.
I know we're not one for big stats. Hold on, Pritch. Hold your horses, Pritch. Not one for big stats here, lads, but I don't know if I told you, I was on Premier Sports for the Pro 14 final last week, and we got a stat pack through, and we bigged up Duhan van der Merwe, lads. His stats for last season in the Pro 14, I have to read a couple of these out. I've actually never seen anything like it. So meters made, obviously top, 971. Second is a Rhino Smith at the Cheetahs on 752, so a couple of 100 meters clear. Clean breaks, Duhan van der Merwe, 32. Second, Rhino Smith on 18. Third, defenders beaten, Duhan van der Merwe, 80 defenders beaten. Second, Rhino Smith, 49. So he's 30 defenders beaten clear, about 16 clean or 14 clean breaks clear, and a boatload of meters clear. Oh my, like, what is that all about? Fair play to him. He's going on the Leinster. I'm calling it now.
He's off contract as well, so
he's actually going to France then.
There'll be a lot of clubs after him, I'd say. He was in France before. He didn't like it. He was in Montpellier.
Oh, didn't know that. Good knowledge, John.
And he was my teammate. It's not like great knowledge.
Just stop playing yourself down. We're trying to get you some punditry gigs here.
Yeah, he was in France, and I think he just came over, young lad, and then didn't. I think he had a few injuries, and then come over to Edinburgh, and he's just tearing it up. I think he's going to get better. And I think if he's not the kind of winger that goes looking for the ball that much as well, so those stats are crazy. You know, he's not someone that really comes off his wing that much. So actually, to have that much of an impact throughout the season is pretty berserk.
Well, I also should remind all our viewers, listeners, etc. He was the Guinness Players Player of the Season in the Pro 14. Those stats, ladies and gentlemen, are why you don't need to see any footage. Hookie, is it one of your boys that's controlling these questions because they're coming up like what's going on? Can you get him, the one that nearly drowned, get him to whack up that question from Pritch again, my old mate? Sorry, Pritch, to shut you down like that. We were on the flow there. Can we get that question up? What was it? Was it about? It was something about the Scarlets, was it?
Should John Fox start for the Scarlets this weekend?
Got to.
No, it's a
Come on, get him in, Hookie, get him in.
He hasn't played for well over a year, has he? I think he said way over a year. So I think
exactly. He's about £1 million a year. He should be playing. He's not played for a year.
Yeah, well, I know. I think if he's fit, you get him on the bench, and it was a pretty big game for the Scarlets. I know they're away in Toulon, but it's definitely one they can win. But I'd just get him on the bench, and if he's fit, bring him on for the last 20, 25 minutes, because that's what the Welsh management will want as well, with the Welsh internationals coming up soon. So get him a game, hopefully, about 20, 25 minutes, and if they progress, we'll have another game, and then he'll be fit and fighting for the internationals. But yeah, starting after a year out, I don't know. What do you reckon?
I reckon
he's going to start. What do you think, John?
I think they'll chuck him in, yeah.
I don't know any of the politics, so I just know he's a good player. But I do have extra comment on this, lads. The Scarlets are going to win that game.
I think so too.
Aren't they, John? Come on. You love the Scallops.
No, the Scallops. Yeah, no, I do. I just, again, it's the power game. Like Toulon, they'll be unfit, they'll be heavy, and they probably won't have any shape. But they'll be monsters, and if they get, scrum and maul going, all that boring stuff, then yeah, Scarlets win. I'm going to back Scarlets to win because I'm doing some comms on that one on the weekend, KV.
Oh, man, we're everywhere, the three of us. We've got a question here, good rugger question from Mark Dunphy, who says, who was the toughest opponent you ever played against? We'll go for that can be either toughest as in like just somebody who was amazing, or toughest as somebody who was like just hard as nails. And don't say me, lads, because I'm #humble.
Who was yours, KV? You must have someone.
Joe, I'm gonna go for someone like who was tough. I have this memory of we were playing Claremont at home a good few years ago, and the ball went loose, and I remember Julian Bonaire dived on the ball, and like as he was diving, I swung the boot at it because he obviously was hard as nails and had a pea heart. And I remember just like catching him like right across the side of the bake with a full-on boot. And I was like full on, like, whoa. Like I was like, I've literally kicked this bloke in the head. Thankfully, then the TMO was like, jouet. And I remember being like, this guy, like I've literally taken his head off. And he just like, I was like, oh. And he just looked at me as if like, like, come on, pal, like that, you scratched me. And it was literally as hard as I could kick. It's the hardest I will ever kick another human being in the head. And I'm not proud of it. But I remember thinking that guy is so nails, like.
Yeah, I think
I suppose not the hardest, but to play against. I think back in 2007. Remember the centre Delasau for Fiji?
Yes, I do actually.
Usually you play against a big bloke, someone like Bastro. He's going straight without any footwork. But this guy, he had footwork. He was massive. So I didn't know where he was going to go, and he tore the whole Welsh team apart. And obviously we got knocked out of that World Cup and didn't progress to the quarter final. But I remember we all thought as a Welsh team we'd be going to the quarters, and we got home on a Sunday, and my parents were going out to the quarter final who had tickets, so I was waving them off, and they were going to France, and I was back home.
John, do you have anyone?
Toughest opponent, like just to play against in general, would be Richie McCaw.
No.
But I'm trying to think of.
Mine was probably actually Dan Carter as well, because I played against the All Blacks. So not to go on about it, but anyway, sorry, go on ahead. What were you saying? What do you call a wee Richard fella?
Richie, Will, mate. I'm trying to think. I put in his backies both, and he was just like, again, talking. Yeah, that's one of those guys. Terrible sledger, but fuck, he could hit you hard, and just back when you could hold people down, and just really he did some damage in Round Rocks. I remember
that. What about this question here from Ted Bundy, aka Bill Mundy? John, this is for you, and this is a good question. I like this. Finn Russell or Adam Hastings? Like, what's happening there? We're going to see Finn back playing for Scotland. What's been said to Gregor? Tell us the lowdown. Is it true that he prank phone called him on a night out and called him a see you next Tuesday?
Genuinely?
No, I just made that up. Did you not hear our comment about me talking white from Francis T. Cronin? Thank you for that, Francis.
Did you see Finn's? There's a couple of videos of Finn going around. He got his top off on the pitch. His top got ripped off in his rig. You see that?
What, belly everywhere?
Belly, sloppy, mud guts hanging out.
Class.
The boys are straight out of your book, KV. But Finn the sooner he's mate. To be fair, Adam's good. Adam's a very good player, but he's not in the same league as Finn right now.
Talk to us about that. What's been going on? I think it's really, really weird. This is my opinion from an outsider, even though I'm a quarter Scottish. I think it's so weird how it's been played out in the media, how Finn's speaking to the media, how Gregor's spoken to the media, and players are like commenting on it in the media. I think it's really weird. And it's almost like this, he needs to phone me. Like, it's so strange.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, and a lot of the boys didn't know. I sort of tried to find out what was going on, and I messaged Finn and just said, "Look, mate, I don't really know what's happened, but I knew he wasn't that happy for a while. I think at the World Cup he wasn't happy with how we were playing. He's a certain character that I'm sure you boys played him. He I heard stories about Jerry Collins when he was Ospreys again. He liked to go out, I've heard stories of Jerry Collins going, rocking up after a night out at the game the next day and buying clothes from the merchandise shop at the Liberty Stadium. Now Finn's not quite in that category, but Finn wants to go out. He wants to relax. I think playing in France and being in Paris and being one of the young lads single or he likes to socialize, and they obviously don't stop him doing that in Paris because he's carving up. So what? On the one hand, why would you? What more do you want from him from a playing point of view for him to be playing that well? But then I get the cultural side of things. If you're saying these are the rules and you broke the rules, then you have to sort of pay the price. But the whole thing, the only thing I think Finn did wrong was I don't know if you saw the time. So his kind of riposte to all that was going was a Times column with him standing like a sofa, like arms out.
Louis Vuitton sweater on.
Yeah, Louis Vuitton. It just didn't look great. I don't think the whole thing was bad for Scottish rugby, and Scottish rugby had a few bad news stories with the stuff with his dad, the stuff with during the World Cup with the hurricane, all that stuff. So it was weird, and I genuinely don't know. It's been kind of kept under wraps, and Gregor's pretty private, and I think Finn wants to get back and play, which is great, and I hope he does.
I think if and when we get renewed for season 2, we get Finn on. Yeah,
he'll come on. Yeah,
he'll come on. Finn will come on. Right, there we go. Finn's coming on. You heard it here.
He wants to play for Scotland. Gregor Townsend and Scotland need a player like him in the squad. Just get in a room, thrash it out for a couple of hours, and sort it out. Surely
How many beers, Hookie?
And when can he drink, John? Is he a good drinker? Or?
No, not really.
Gregor's not a good drinker, is he?
No, both terrible.
What are 2 beers?
2 beers. Yeah, I don't know how they fixed that because it was so. I don't know. I think they did talk, and there was rumors of, requests to go and see psychologists and all this sort of stuff. And Finn was like, well, I don't think there's a problem. And I think that's when that's when there's no solution. When you both don't agree there's a problem.
Yeah.
You find a solution, but obviously they're going to find a way to find a solution.
He's coming on the pod. That's all I heard, lads. Let's get some good questions in here, lads. This is brilliant. Ian Gilbert, I like that. We're talking about the hardest player. Jack Berger, he faced like a melted bucket, or my old Jack, but he's nailed him, wasn't he? And I smashed him at the Kingspan in the Saris game about 5 years ago. But he was hard, lads. Did you ever play against him?
Can we get some footage of that, KV boy?
I will try. I can't promise, but yeah. Did you guys ever smash him, or was it just me?
Just you, pal.
Just you, pal, thing. I did see a thing with him recently. He was talking about how he was like, I think he said 5 No, it can't be far. He's had a couple shoulder replacements. He needs knee replacements. He needs shoulder replacements. Nose replacement. Like everything. His body's is dust. So he's earned.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I'll answer this one. David McGill. My preferred Irish centre partnership. That's a good question. I am. We were joking earlier. I love a bit of Gary Ringrose. So I'm locking him in at 13 there, and then at 12, it's going to be a bit of a form selection between Henshaw and Bundy, and then I probably put me on the bench because I would cover both. What do you reckon, Hookie? I don't think I could start anymore. Like I could still do a job against Georgia, probably. Like to be honest, that's.
I can see last 20 off a bench, KV boy. Big impact.
Yeah. Let's talk Zebo, boys. Everyone loves Zebo. What do you boys reckon about Zebo? Apparently, Zebo might be coming on the market. What Pro 14 team is he best suited to? I think we all know the answer to that. I'm not sure. We'll see him at Rodney Parade, knee deep in the mud. No offense to our mate Jamie Roberts, who was on last week. What do you reckon about him, lads? He's suppose I should start. I know him best because we went to the World Cup in 2015 together. I don't know if I told you that, but hell of a player, boys. Talented boy. I can see how him and Finn get on. Like just dances to his own. Hold on, what's the phrase? Let me Google. Dances to the bangs to the dance of the beat of his own drum. He dances to the beat of his own drum.
That's the one.
That's the problem with being live. We could have done that again. He dances, so Zebo dances to the beat of his own drum. See what I did there? Podcasters? That's what normally happens behind the scenes. But so talented. But Ireland have good back three. What do you reckon, boys? Hookie?
He's only 30, isn't he, Zebo? He's not older than that, is he? So he's got plenty to give, I reckon. So does he want to leave Racing, or is it just his contract's up and he wants to come back?
Not too sure. Listen, he's an absolute proper Munster man. I think I could see him going back to Munster. I could see him going back. He always got on okay with Joe Schmidt, but not fantastic. Like because Joe loved the system and it was more about guys that like consistently chased kicks well. And not that Zeebs didn't do that, but Zeebs is all about flair. So him and Joe were always okay. So I just wonder, it doesn't matter how much you're paid in Racing, when you're sitting watching the team playing World Cups and stuff, he's got to be thinking, get home to Munster, give this Ireland thing a bit another rattle before I get too old.
Yeah, and Munster'd love to have him back, surely, wouldn't he?
I'd say so. And then from an Ireland point of view, that's sort of the issue. James Lowe's about to be Irish qualified soon. Keith Earl's playing some good rugby still. You've got the horse Jacob Stockdale. You got Jordan Larmour. Apologies who I missed. Andrew Conway, who's played fantastic. And, actually Hugo Keenan, the way he's playing, he'll be in the mix soon. So there is options there. But I could see him come back to Munster. John, do you care?
No, I was just thinking there. I don't know, like financially, if they'll be able to get him back. It depends. Like you listed off all the players there, and if he's thinking, well, I want to come back to Ireland, I want to play for Ireland. There's no guarantee he's going to play for Ireland, and this is not. I don't know if he's thinking this, but maybe it's a consideration. He'll be thinking financially. I'd imagine he's getting well looked after in Racing. I don't know. There's lots of things to consider, but I think he's quality. He's carrying a few extra pounds, I think, from the French diet.
Yeah, him and Finn Riggs everywhere, but it doesn't matter. Double XL shirt and play on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they would. You look at it, and it's like finance. You look at finances, don't you? And what's someone like him gonna want? And I don't know. I don't think wingers, if we're getting really nosy, I don't think wingers command. I've heard stories of wingers asking for, crazy dough, and I don't think wingers get that much money across the board in terms of what are most teams looking for where the big bucks go? Is it tight heads,
props and tens,
and number eights? 10. So it's like, well, I don't know. Yeah, interesting though. Watch that space.
Yeah, well, all I know is a Hookie got £1 million for going to Perpignan, and he was a 10. So here, lads, what about that question? What do you say about?
It was all about the rugby for me.
The culture.
Mate.
What about that question from Pritch, boys? We're not even getting into that. Pritch, all I know is you, like John said there, not to get too nosy. Look at that, lads. How tough is it defensively to play against the All Blacks, knowing they switch between the 2-4-2 and the 1-3-3-1 between during their attack? I don't know. Like
I don't know.
Is that football?
I was thinking that. Yeah, the All of us got a football team, haven't they?
They probably do actually, but we're not getting into that. Pritch, like there's a lot of problems with playing the All Blacks. It's basically that they're unstoppable. I don't think it's to do with 4-4-2s. Look at this absolute banter from Jamie Donahue or Donahoe. Sorry, Jamie.
Oh Jesus, that's not true. Well, that's not real.
Things are not always as they seem, Jamie, but thank you for that. I owe you a pint of the finest Irish stout. We're getting questions here about Leinster back rowers, lads. I don't even know if we can get into that because we've probably only got another 5 minutes or so left. We'll be here all night. How well do you know all these boys, John? Have you been watching them or have you been?
Well, it's like who'd you pick?
Yeah,
like
genuinely. I'm not trying to plead ignorance. I just think like who do you want to talk about? It's like they just put one in, put one out. You know, whoever goes in is unbelievable. So I don't know who you'd pick. I'd never seen. Is it Connors, the young kid that came on? He's like chopping boys left, right, and center.
Yeah, he's chop suey. He's system of a down.
He's killing boys, killing Doris. You know, and they've just lost. And you think about who they've lost as well. The last couple of years, big play like Sean O'Brien, Jamie Heaslow's big, lions, guys that had been at the club a long time, and these young lads come through and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, I've got this, boys." Whoever they pick, it's crazy, and there's a guy's injured, so
Rhys Ruddock's already played.
Rhys Ruddock,
Irish captain. He's captained Ireland. Normally in the Shags, I would remember him captaining because I was probably behind him, probably beside him. We're belting out the anthem in Georgia. You know what I mean, Hookie? A weird rendition of Ireland's call backwards in Georgian on some bloke's iPhone up against the mic.
Jack Burger.
Yeah. Well, where are we here? Opinion on Georgia if they were to beat one or two. This is always a good talking point, isn't it? One or two of the other Six Nations teams, other than Italy, would there be pressure to drop them out? What do you make of this? Forget about the Autumn Nations Cup for now, right? So this is say Six Nations if and when it gets back to normal. Are you for relegation? Or are you against it? Like, what do you think? Because I have my own kind of opinion on it. So
I'll go first. And I'm not going to stand the fence here. I think Georgia are miles off the standard of the rest of the Six Nations, other than Italy. So I think they could maybe, again, I just don't think they'll beat two. The question was, would they beat two of the Six Nations teams? That won't happen, in my opinion.
No, I don't think it would happen either. But anyway, yeah, I kind of do agree with you, John, but I have a slightly different take on it. Hookie, I'll let you gather your thoughts here. This is, and it's actually worth noting that Italy actually's record against Georgia, you'll be surprised to hear I don't have it in front of me, but I'm led to believe it's pretty good from the producer in my ear here. There's no producer in my ear, it's made up. No, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen. And here's why, guys, because in my last season at Ulster, I was on the board of Rugby Players Ireland. So there was there was a chair who was Rob Carney, and then there was a player from each province, and then there was a couple of non-execs and somebody from the sevens game, the women's game, etc., etc. And as a board, the IRFU would never. I don't think the IRFU would ever agree to relegation in the Six Nations because there's a 1% chance that Ireland get relegated one day. So if you agree that relegation is a thing, you then bring yourself at risk to be relegated. Now, it's not going to happen with Ireland, but let's just say it does in 10 years, extending circumstances, Ireland get relegated. Suddenly you are playing Six Nations games in Georgia, Romania, Spain, etc., etc. The IRFU then don't have the revenue to pay players, and literally, the IRFU fund the 4 provinces in Ireland. So, professional rugby is finished. And that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but genuinely, if you take this, the Six Nations money, the revenue made on match day from TV out of Irish rugby, the provinces cease to exist anymore. So I don't think that's my personal opinion on the IRFU. It's a really selfish viewpoint, but as a board member on Rugby Players Ireland, my job was to look after the Ulster players. So was it in the Ulster players' interest for there to be relegation in the Six Nations? No. So I wouldn't have voted for it. I would have voted against it, against the IRFU allowing it, because it's a small risk to the future of Ulster rugby. Do you know what I mean?
They'd never come out and say that, though, would they? And
no.
How long can it carry on if Italy getting stuffed by 40, 50 points, finishing bottom of the table, and Georgia, if they keep beating Italy, then obviously they're going to have a say in that, aren't they? So whether you have a relegation, I don't know, every 2-3 years, I don't know.
Yeah, you hear the stories though, but like we joke about England on match day, you hear the amount of money generated. Listen, and I know England aren't getting relegated, and I know Ireland, but if your primary, like we're all for growing the game, but your primary concern is your own country and your own players, like why would you put that at risk? Yeah, and it's a real, like, I'm not saying it's right. It's a crappy situation because ultimately you want to see Georgia rewarded, and you like it would add a little bit of the wooden spoon's a bit boring, really. Nobody wants to see Scotland get relegated either, John. I mean, John, jokes aside, what do you think? Like Scotland have finished bottom of Six Nations probably in the last 10 years. That would have been them gone. Like that'd be devastating for Scottish rugby.
My understanding of it, I think you're kind of touching on it, is that the Six Nations runs World Rugby, and that's what you hear the SANZAAR unions talk about, is the power that Six Nations unions have in decision making is huge. So I just don't think it'll happen. I do think we went in the World Cup, before the World Cup, we went to Tbilisi and played a game there, and it was brilliant. I thought it was awesome. Great place to go and play. I think teams should go and play in Scotland because Andy Robinson agreed our touring schedule and agreed that because we were pretty crap then, we should never go and play in New Zealand. We should never play 3-match test series. So we did some awesome tours in the summer. We did, the Fiji, Samoa. We got Australia. We did tons of different places. From a rugby point of view, a bit indifferent, but I think there's a responsibility to two of these places if you want to grow the game. But I don't think them being in the Six Nations right now is the right answer.
What do you reckon, Hookie? I actually agree with John, by the way, despite my rant. Like, I'm just saying, I'm being the pessimistic realist. I don't think it's going to happen in the foreseeable future, but I'm not saying that's right.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's right. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know. Say now Georgia in the Nations Cup, they turn over one of the big nations, then obviously that opens up a can of worms then, doesn't it?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think if Georgia go well, and it is good that that they're getting these fixtures. You hear about World Rugby often talk about tier 1 and tier 2 and trying to grow the game. And then if you look at, like, I've seen some stats before about when the last time a tier 1 team travelled, or like the All Blacks travelled to one of the Pacific nations to play. I think that was recently, and it was the first time in 20 or 30 years. But if they want to grow the game, they do need to get the big teams going there. And Ireland normally aren't bad, in fairness, with regard. In November, they normally take a game. They would normally play like South Africa, Fiji, and Australia. They'd normally have one game to get the shags out, John. That's how I got to 11 caps, obviously.
They're going to play. That's the issue, I think.
Yeah, and listen, let's we're going to probably wrap it up soon, guys. Here's a question from Gareth Smith, and I think this came earlier on Twitter, actually. The favourite player your club let go. So I'm going to assume that's like a player whilst you were at the club. So is there anyone jumping to mind there, guys, or do you want me to kick it off, or what are you thinking?
I remember Nicolas Mas in Perpignan, the French prop. He was with us in Perpignan, and he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave Perpignan, but Montpellier wanted him, and they were offering him big money. And all he wanted was a little bit more than what he was on in Perpignan, nowhere near what Montpellier were offering him. And Perpignan wouldn't raise it that a little bit, so he had to go. And the boys would get there. He was a hell of a player, and he's the first one that springs to mind, isn't he?
Yeah,
John, go ahead.
I was going to say Liam Williams. When we were see one of the. Yeah, maybe going back to that question, I did play against him, but when I was with him, unbelievable. Yeah, Hookie, you know him better than I do probably, but yeah, tough as nails, quality, good lad, but just one of the guys you want in your team. And again, one of the boys that Matt, when he was playing, it was Wales, Scarlets, whoever. He was always on his game. So yeah, I was glad when he went.
Great player. He's back now. You're gone, John.
He's back down. I could go back as well. He, Sanj, the lads, all back together. Tig, get them all down there.
The boys. For me, I don't know. There's probably it's probably more. There's a few. Like obviously, like Charles Piatoy when he left. Ruan Pinar is the obvious one. Tommy Bowe going to the Ospreys. I remember that. That was a bad one. The Ospreys got the checkbook out about 10 years ago and cleaned everyone up, and then all they do now is cry about how they've no money, and everyone's going, but you bought the league a couple of times, paying the Fab Five all sorts of cash about 10 years ago. Tommy Bowe, I remember him going to the Ospreys, obviously a good pal as well, name drop. Was sad to see him go. Other guys like who aren't as well known, Tom Court, loose head prop. He went to London Irish for a boatload of cash. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see. We'll probably finish up here.
Actually, Johnny May in Gloucester. He left Gloucester to go to Leicester. Again, he's back now, isn't he? But yeah, I think that was a big loss as well.
What about this nickname? We actually need a nickname for John. John, what do they call you?
He's not a great nickname. It's not like original, is it?
Mate, Hooky and Cavey are two of the best nicknames I've ever heard.
Hold on, yeah, you boys don't have nicknames either.
Well, I'm Cavey and that's Hooky and you're Johnny.
Well, there you go. I'm Barks.
Would you get Barks? Sure. What would people call you?
Barks.
Do it Barks with an X.
No, I don't know. I got
because we are mates now. Hooky, what should we start calling them? Barks. Barx. Barks.
Yeah, what do you prefer, Barks? Hey, Barks. No, anyway, you stuck with it now, but
Barks. Yeah, Barks. It's not a nickname, is it?
Yeah, let's go Barks. Let's give it a go. And the one coming in there at the end here, we're not like who's got the worst hairstyle in the Pro 14. Comfy cardigan. My advice to you is to go back and listen to episode 1 because we touched on it. There's a few absolutely shocking lids going on. But I think that'll probably do us for now, lads. That's a wrap. Loads. Thank you everyone for all the questions. That's a wrap for season 1, guys. How many thousand listeners do we have? 10,000 logged in at the minute. So hopefully we'll get renewed for season 2, boys. What do you think?
I'd say there's a good chance.
A little bit of luck now, KB.
Yeah, absolutely, lads. Absolutely. Listen, thank everyone putting in the questions, buying into it. When we tweeted it earlier, we were a bit concerned that no one was going to rock up. It's just going to be the three of us talking even more nonsense than normal. Let's keep the reviews coming. I enjoyed it. Review of the week was a good segment, wasn't it, boys?
Yeah, it was great.
It was good. It was good. And listen,
action we've ever had. It was good.
Yeah, and so if anyone who's just tuned into the show for the first time, thank you for watching and listening, and make sure you subscribe to the Late Hit podcast on any podcast provider. Just search for us, you'll find us, and tell your mates all about it. I've already told my mates here. We've got hold on, wait for me. Where is he? That's Barks, and that's Hooky, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Late Hit.